Welcome to the Church with No Walls podcast.
Welcome to this edition of the Church with No Walls podcast. I am your host, Ryan Dearbone, and I am glad to be joined today by a fellow Hilltopper, a friend of mine, someone I've known for a long time, Mr. Adam Sherrill, who is a Christian radio personality. Adam, great to see you. Great to talk with you today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And so let's kind of dive in a little bit. So talk about how you got into being a radio personality, and what are you doing? What stations do you work with, and kind of how you got into that role?
Okay, definitely. I started I was asked in 2016 if I ever thought about having a radio station. And when I was asked, I was like, no, it's not anything that I want to be doing or anything that I'm interested in. And then I started thinking about it. Well, I'm always helping independent artists in different areas of the industry, as far as getting everything started, getting them connected with radio, having them getting marketing, distribution, helping them get connected to different engineers and trying to produce albums and everything like that. So I said, well, you know what? Having a radio station that would be geared toward playing their music now would kind of be a good platform to be able to help, push and promote and play their music. So I thought about it, and then here I am since 2016 having a radio station. And now I moved from one station after being there for about 3 years to now being on Believe Radio, which is in the Bay Area and Fresno area. So it's two different stations. And now I'm the program director for both of those stations. And I have my own radio show, which is geared toward independent artists.
Now that's awesome. So kind of an unconventional way to get there, but you mentioned giving a platform to artists that may not always have that. Looking at the landscape that we see now with gospel music and contemporary Christian music, how important is it to have that platform for artists that are on the come up, that are on the rise, trying to share a ministry to the outside world?
It's very important, and the reason why, because the independent artists that I work with or over the years, they always are connected to the younger generation. So their contemporary style, the way they look at it, the way they produce it and put it together, and the way they have written the songs really speaks to our younger generation. So by me having that platform is definitely me reaching out to those type of artists and always trying to get their music, because they're always doing something different. It's not the traditional old school way. So the new sound, the new way of doing stuff, all the contemporary, even adding the rap and all that that's, out there on social media that we see all the time. It is definitely a good thing. And that's the reason why I like what I do, because I always want to get that new stuff that's trendy. And I like to play that and put it out there for all of my listeners.
And so you brought up a good point, talking about kind of more traditional old school. We're still, even though we're millennials, there are generations above us, older than us, that still like the traditional gospel, the traditional hymnal type music. How do you, as a radio personality and somebody in charge of it and working with younger audiences, bridge that gap between somebody who says, I'd rather hear something that I would normally hear in my church on a Sunday morning, when my grandma was in the choir, versus what's being put out there now with rap and with being more contemporary for a younger audience? How do you bridge the gap or balance the two?
Well, the main thing with that, and that's the reason why I became the actual radio programmer for both of my stations, because within a 24-hour period of us playing music, we definitely have to cater to all different styles of music and to all of our listeners that could pop in at any given moment. So we actually have designated different show slot times so that we could actually hit all of the targets. So that way, if you listen in anytime within the 24-hour period, the first 4 hours is probably going to be all your traditional old school hymns and everything that my grandmama and them listen to. And then it just progresses throughout the day up until around my showtime, which is the 4 hour slot that now is bringing that music that's right on the line, that talks a little bit about love and has a little Christian message in it. And so I try to find those type of songs and all of the things to bridge the gap when I'm programming for the whole 24 hours so that we meet all target goals and all of our listeners. So it's been the most rewarding part of being a programmer, but it's also been, what do I say? Not a hassle, but just knowing that I have to create for everyone. It was a challenge at first of trying to really get the showtime set that we need to designate just for this target audience. But then if the younger generation comes in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, then they may want a hymnal as well, but then we got something for them later on as well. So all of that has made the programming very rewarding to be able to hit all generations, all target audience.
And so, based off of that, what do you think the role of media is in church? Because now, obviously, post-pandemic, churches are leaning more on media, whether it's live streaming, whether it's social media. What do you think the role is today for churches and just religion in general using the media?
Oh, it's a very huge role. I think that there's no other way at this point. I just feel like, especially since the pandemic, it opened our eyes to, you have to do something. You have to create it, even if your church didn't even do streaming as much or didn't want to get into that type of thing for services. You have to, because if not, everybody's not coming to all those services like we used to when we were growing up. People are not wanting to come out of their house, and if they do, they only want to come out for 30 minutes and then they want to go back. Or also, it actually structured the church setting so that the way that the flow of service goes, you have to come up with a different alternative that would make it even be shorter to fit everyone's extension spans, because not everybody can sit there for 4 hours like we used to. So, but bringing the media piece in is definitely a huge thing, because you have to be able to appease everyone, because with all these different platforms and everything that's out there as far as social media goes and all of that, you have to integrate all of that in, and you have to have good quality stuff as well when you're doing the media, because they can tell if it's not good quality, and then they won't listen in or watch in, and then they'll go find another service. So a lot of people actually, I would say, lost members, but actually gained members too, with having all of your stuff in order and appeasing to the new generation with adding all this media in, because I can sit here from my house and watch 10 different church services now and not have to even go out of my house, but I can still, within the 4 hour time span, I can watch all these services and get what I need, or look at what I'm trying to look at, or just seeing what everybody's doing and not having to physically go and be at the services and being there for a length of time. And it's just the way of living now, I feel.
And do you think that having internet radio and having shows like yours and stations like yours in a way supplements what pastors and churches and religious organizations are trying to do, because it gives them a chance, like what you do reaches an audience that they may not reach within that four walls, and it kind of maybe brings them to the church house, or maybe it gives them a thought process of religion that they might not have had otherwise.
Absolutely. And because it is an internet radio station that I do, I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, but my stations are based out of the Bay Area and Fresno area of California. So just with my demographics of the people in my area that will listen to me at the time that I'm on, we're miles away. So with that, it's actually providing a platform for even churches to be able to put announcements in to say, hey, join us for this service time, where somebody in California could watch a service in Nashville, and it's different time zones, different everything, and they may like the church in Nashville. So it's definitely bridging all of that together and making it work for everybody, and it's pleasing and appeasing to everybody that you can actually be in Nashville and be connected to a church in California, two different time zones, and you can watch them, and there's no conflict of interest. There's no conflict of anything because it's the time that you want to go on and watch them, and you can get what you need from both.
And then how have you seen internet radios, particularly in the religious space, grow over the years? Obviously, you've been doing this for a little while, so you've seen a growth. Was it pandemic related, or just how have you seen it grow over the years?
Well, I would just say even not even pandemic related because we've been having radio before then, and internet radio became a larger platform for listeners because just even in Nashville there wasn't any gospel radio stations anymore. So when I originally started in radio, it was internet radio, but it was really covering the dynamics of Nashville because I was on a Nashville show that was created when I first started. So being on that first Nashville show, it has expanded so much because I see the numbers all the time. So I know that everybody that I'm connected to and everything that I put out there that, people all over or seeing me post and the different time zones and the different everything, like I've seen it grow so much that, it really was shocking to know that one, people are even still listening to radio, but because it's the internet radio, everybody has the internet, Wi-Fi. All you have to do is just click on the website and click play 24 hours anytime during the day, and you can listen to gospel music if you want to, and it's available for you.
And you mentioned the numbers. How do you what is the process? What numbers do you see in terms of who's listening, how they're listening, what they're listening on, and then how do you cultivate your programming based off of those numbers?
Great question. Great question. So when I'll just say from when I first started out, I had about 150 to 500 listeners on just during my slot of showtime. And then like every month we get a numbers of how it's doing and we can see the demographics of where people are listening in from. When I started realizing that somebody was listening in from Australia and Egypt, and they either went on their phone because it tells us, if they actually were on a mobile device. It tells us if it's a tablet or if it was their actual computer. And I even realized back then is when I realized that, like me, I'm not even sitting down at my physical computer that much anymore. My computer's with me on the go because I have my iPhone and my tablet or my iPad. So all of these are connecting, and the numbers show us, where they're actually listening from the area, and it tells us what they're listening on. So when I started seeing those numbers, I'm like, well, yeah, I just have to think that the people are just like me. Yeah, I'm on the go all the time. I'm never really at home. I probably am gone 80% of the day from home, and I'm doing everything from my phone. So that's where when I started seeing those numbers, that's when I was like, yeah, I gotta keep that in mind as I'm doing everything because everybody's on the go just like me.
And then so for that, so you're constantly thinking, okay, how do I incorporate that thought process in with what I'm playing with the music? Kind of as you said, as your day progresses, you got more traditional, then you kind of go into contemporary. Are there times where you maybe break away from that based off of, whether it's something going on in the world, whether it's something you just feel like, okay, maybe we need to go in a different direction today because I feel like the listeners need this. And since you have the ability to do that, have there been times where you've deviated from that?
No, and I'll tell you the reason why. Because even with everything always changing and it's always something going on, some people still, I think everyone still likes some kind of consistency of something. So creating the actual programming to where we have the slots is like maybe if they couldn't listen in today during that time that they got a hymn, but tomorrow during that time they can listen in. So us having a consistent schedule that how I program it, so I never have to deviate from it, or at least I'd say I haven't at this point, because I think it's been working. Because when you're on the go and you're listening, because just like yesterday, me in the airport, I listened into my station because I was in the airport, and it's a different timing that I'm never in the airport at that time. And I was able to hear someone else's shows that I have programmed that is more of the traditional choir music that I grew up loving. And I was like, yeah, I haven't heard a lot of these choir songs in so long that, this was good for me to be in the airport, moving around in the midst of all confusion and everything in the airport, moving and going. I was able to still listen in, get a good encouraging word, and listen to choir music that I haven't been able to listen to lately, because I listen to more independent music that's not really choir. So when I'm actually getting submissions in and everything like that from the independent artists, some of it's more of the contemporary updated music. So it's not the choir music. So I don't listen to as much choir music as I used to, unless I'm like having to learn music for church or something like that for the choir. But yeah, it was actually a different thing even for me being the programmer.
And so then how much audience response or reaction do you get? And do you get that from social media? Where do you hear from your audience outside of just numbers? How do they connect with you and speak to you and let you know what they like, what they don't like, and where they're at, spiritually?
Good question. Now, I have a lot of people that, of course, social media, because usually when I'm on live, I usually am posting on social media. So I get a lot of responses from people on social media that are saying, "Oh, I'm listening. This is a great encouraging," you know, or it's stuff or if they hear remember Bible stories that they used to read that, taught us certain things when we were growing up. And now this is a song that's now related to the same thing. And it's like, oh, okay. I actually have the connection of what I remember reading as the stories from the Bible days, and now an actual song that I can relate to. So it just I'm always getting mainly through social media, but I always give out my email, or, people hit me up on social media, because I have my Instagram, my Facebook, all the different platforms that I'm usually posting on. So they hit me up right there. And that's most people are using social media. Mainly more over even emails now. It seems like that people are using social media, so they'll just be like, "Oh, I'm gonna send them a message right now."
And so looking to the future, obviously we can't predict the future. Only God knows what's going to happen. But where do you see radio, internet radio, Christian radio, where do you see it going in the next few years as we make a journey forward? What do you see? Major changes, things kind of staying as they are, evolution? What do you see?
Ooh. I actually think that some of the main things that we see now will continue going, but as we evolve and more technology and media is created, I think we'll just have to keep expanding in that direction. But I think because we're so connected with internet and everything that it is now, as we keep evolving with that, I just think we'll just have to expand on what we're already doing. Um, because we're already got all the streaming going on, because most people don't have even CD players and everything anymore, right? So the integration of streaming was very huge. Let's say 10 years ago is when I started seeing the main streaming numbers going up, with everything. And then that's also integrated in audio podcasts. So now that was another part of streaming that, is another platform, but it's still connected to the internet or, social media and everything. So I think it's just growing in whatever capacity that we're going to. So I don't really think it will be like any changes per se, but it's just adding on to what we're doing. Because, like, every year a new device comes out, it adds more features, more whatever. I think we're just going to keep adding on like that. I don't think it's going to be just a drastic change, but hey, it could be. Who knows?
And that being said, what do you think happens to the church overall, the physical buildings, the religion as we know it now? Obviously, things change, but what do you think? Will we lose physical buildings of churches because we have so many more options for virtual, digital worship? Will we see another shift in the way religion is taught or the way we do religion? What do you think?
I actually think it will change for the church in a way that um, not necessarily will hurt the church, so to speak. But I just think that everyone that's in positions with church that do anything in the arena of a church service, I think that they will definitely have to come up with new innovative ways to, because there's still going to be a certain group of people that's going to physically go to the church no matter what. So every time their church is open, they're going to be there. But then there's going to be the generation like now that they don't really go to church. They watch it online. So I think they'll still have to just keep balancing between the everything to incorporate the religion from their platform that they want to put out there. So I just think that they're just gonna have to keep coming up with new ways to keep on incorporating everything that's coming out new into how they deliver the message that they're putting out from their church.
And then for you in this role, how has this role as a radio programmer, radio personality, how has that changed or strengthened your faith in God and religion? How has that made your connection with God different because of the work that you do?
It's made a tremendous impact and a change on me, and I'll tell you why. Because me growing up in church, knowing the Bible, and I know the way it was taught to me growing up, right? But then I have people that they may didn't grow up in the church. They just learned about it or they just read about it. And now they're writing and singing about it. And so me incorporating all those into my daily everything from my morning devotion to me listening actually into the songs that are submitted to me, that I have to really listen and make sure that I'm understanding the message that they're putting out. And then when I have so many that I'm listening to create what I want my listeners to hear and the message of hope that is giving for my listeners, then me programming that and putting it in an order that will then say that I am perceiving it or the way I want it to come out for them to get the message as well. So it's just strengthening and adding another tool onto me that if I can't read my Bible today, but me listening to the songs that are from the Bible that have Bible verses and scripture in it, it's all just gelling and creating the person that I'm continuing to grow in Christ to be.
That's an amazing answer. Last question for you. So a lot of people will say that the most segregated place is a church on Sunday. And so the whole point of this podcast is to look at how we have a church with no walls, to be more of a global, like how the church is global and how it grows to be global. To you, what is the one thing that people need to do in order to take the church outside of the four walls that we usually see on a Sunday in order to make it a more open and inclusive experience for everyone?
Well, everything diversity and inclusion is what we hear the most, and I just think that in order to reach that, and you just have to come up with a way that culturally gets everyone on the same page. And I think to me, music is one of those common grounds that brings everybody culturally together. because it's the message of hope that is given. And I just think that as everyone grows in every walk of life and everything, that you have to just learn how to and cultivate that so that it reaches everyone. And I just believe that with music, it definitely draws everybody in, because we all have different experiences, we all have different upbringings and everything that, it may not look the same, but the message is still the same. So as long as we're getting the message the way it's supposed to be sent out, I think that, it just bonds us together, and that's what keeps us on the same common things, with religion and Christianity, and music is one of those main things that can definitely connect it and get the message out there.
Absolutely. And so now, if somebody wants to check out your show, check out your stations, where can they go? Plug your stuff for me.
Definitely. Well, it's our website is www.believeradiobayarea.com, and you can actually go on to the website and click on it. And when you go there, there is a play button in the middle that will actually play the music 24 hours a day. And then for my Fresno area, it's www.believeradiofresno.com. And we also have a Believe Radio app in the App Store. And then you can always hit us up on social media, for Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and all the other platforms. It's Believe Radio. And so we that's all the ways. And if you ever want to hit me up, it's Adam Sherrill, and I'm on all social media platforms, Adam Sherrill. And my email is indmusicbelieveradio@gmail.com.
All right, Adam, that is great. It's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. We wish you blessings and good health, and we continue to, hopefully people listen to the podcast will tune over to your stations and check you out. And with that, I'm Ryan Dearbone. I'm your host of the Church with No Walls podcast. Take care and be blessed.